Hi, I'm James Kirkland, aka the Mind Massager of the Intellectual Stew podcast. I want you to join us as we delve into some of the hot topics that both unite and divide us. We won't always agree, but let's commit to having those difficult conversations and open up some thought provoking dialogue so that together we can start getting back together. We thought about it, we fought about it, so let's talk about it. All right, so I messed it up, so I'm going to do it one more time. Hi, I'm James Kirkland, aka the Mind Massager of the Intellectual Stew podcast. I want to invite you to join us as we delve into some of the hot topics that both unite and divide us. We won't always agree, but let's at least commit to having those difficult conversations and open up some thought provoking dialogue so that together we can start the process of getting back together. We thought about it, we've even fought about it. So now let's talk about it. I'm going to do it one more time. Hi, I'm James Kirkland, the Mind Massager of the Intellectual Stew podcast. I want to invite you to join us as we delve into some of the hot topics that both unite and divide us. We won't always agree, but let's at least commit to having those difficult conversations, and perhaps we can open up some thought-provoking dialogue so that together we can start the process of getting back together. We've thought about it. We've even fought about it. Now let's talk about it on the Intellectual Stew. Loves me. They recognize what real love is. They know how to respond to real love. A lot of people that don't recognize it, some people don't even think it exists. It's become so rough out here, it's so bad out here now. Some people doubt whether or not real love exists. A person could be telling you love them over and over and over again, but they don't necessarily, if they're like, I don't see it, I don't believe it. Insecure. Yeah. So what's the next? Oh yeah, now this anxious. Those with this, I left this part out. Those with the anxious or ambivalent attachment, it's not easy when relationships, for them, it's not easy when relationships end. Yeah. They find it especially difficult. But it also confirms their fears because they were already insecure. They were too busy saying, listen, you don't love me. They tend to feel unworthy of love and don't recognize it when it happens. You know anybody like that? Always worry whether somebody loves them or not. They'll say actions speak louder than words. But even when you show them actions, they still say, I need to hear it. Let me see. A person with anxious ambivalence. Let me see. Ms. Milton said a person with anxious ambivalent attachment style has insecurities that can linger for decades, even if these issues are not resolved. Absolutely. All of these, I mean, these attachment styles, that's why they are showing up in our adult lives. Because, like you said earlier, and like Nicole said, because some of us just weren't aware. And we thought we were going on as normal. But can I tell you that dysfunction can become your normal? If you operate only in dysfunction, then dysfunction has become your new normal. Point blank. If you raise a child in a dysfunctional household, they'll think that's normal. I used the story, I think, last week about Jawanza Kunjufu. Jawanza Kunjufu told the story about a little boy named Johnny. Johnny would go to school and he was in kindergarten, but Johnny wouldn't sit down, couldn't sit down. Teacher say, sit down, Johnny, get back up. Teacher say, sit down, get back up. So the teacher goes to the principal goes to the counselor says, I'm going to go to Johnny's house. I got to find out why little Johnny won't sit down. So she knocks on the door. When Johnny's young mother comes to the door and moves out the way, looks in the living room, and it's only one chair. And the chair is sitting in front of a TV that's on a crate. And grandmama's sitting in the chair. Johnny didn't sit down because Johnny didn't have anywhere to sit at home. And so if you don't understand a child, don't understand or take the time to understand a person, then you're not going to understand why they feel or why they act the way they act. Everything starts with orientation. It starts with a seed that was planted. So when Miss Milton says that these things can linger, that's key word, linger, but you can lingering can something, it can be alleviated if you recognize the pattern. What you say, Miss Milton? I met with someone like this. It's consistent hand holding, reassurance, and it's exhausting. Yeah, because they're insecure. You're always having to reassure them, or reconfirm, or all these types of things. It can be tough if that person never learns that that's their issue and starts to work on their issues. I'm telling you all, this therapy thing, I'm sold. I get it. I'm glad I got insurance. But it's definitely a good place to go in. When look, only 3 people have reacted, and I see about at least 10 people in the room. Can y'all like or love or share this post, please? So I got about probably 15, 20 more minutes. Maybe I think I got 2 more attachment styles to go through. And then we'll make our way through it. But if you would like it, share the thread. Maybe some more people can get some good information off of this as well. Because if we want to be better in relationships, we're going to have to do better at understanding ourselves. Let me tell you something. All of our stuff stinks. I know some of y'all say, no, when I eat this, I got a good diet. I don't care what you say. All of us go through something at some point in life. All of us have been through something, right? All of us, and as I said last week, all of those of us who are in relationships and aren't in relationships anymore, to a degree, we were in a failed relationship, right? So we're under construction, and that's okay, because that's why we're here. That's why we're having these conversations, because we're trying to fix and become better versions of ourselves. So if understanding our attachment style, especially if it's dysfunctional, if that helps us become a better version of ourselves, why not? Let's share this information, okay? So we've talked about 2 attachment styles already. We've talked about the secure attachment, and we've talked about the anxious and ambivalent one. But here's another one that a lot of us probably excel in because of what we talked about earlier. Because what happens when we're faced with adversity, rather than rehabilitate, a lot of us would rather amputate. We would rather than do the work, the push-ups, the sit-ups, the calisthenics, everything it takes to get stronger. Let's just cut this thing. Let's cut this thing off. Let's get a prosthetic limb. It's stable enough. I got a limp, but it's stable enough. So I'm just going to do that. When we do that, we're operating in what we call the avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment, because we would rather amputate than rehabilitate. We'd rather not put in the work. It takes too much effort to put in work. I don't want to go through that. I'm lazy. I ain't gonna lie, in PE, I used to be in PE before I got in athletics, but I used to hate to run the mile. For what? What we running for? Just in circles over and over again? I might be better at cross country, but I just didn't like just running the mile over and over again. So I would try to avoid it. I didn't want to dress out. I pull out my asthma pump. No, I'm joking about that part. I didn't get asthma until I got older. But those with avoidant attachment, they're marked by challenges with intimacy and close relationships. They're marked by challenges with intimacy and close relationships. Now, we're talking about how things show up in our adulthood, but to understand how they show up in our adulthood, we tackle it in the infancy. Children with an avoidant attachment may have had caregivers, here it is, who were not emotionally available. These might have been what you call latchkey kids. Now hold on. Let me put this caveat out there. That doesn't mean a latchkey kid couldn't have a secure attachment. Okay? I was a latchkey kid a lot of years. I don't ever remember going to daycare or after school program, any of those things. We got off the bus, so I rode my bike home, I had a key and I went in the house and I waited till my parents came home. Okay. But I had loving parents and all those things as well. So, but those that have the avoidant attachment, they may have been left to take care of themselves because they could not rely on a parent or guardian. So these type of children, they might avoid parents or caregivers and not have a preference between a caregiver and a stranger. It's dangerous when a child will trust a stranger more than they trust their caregiver. Hear me when I say that again. I'm going to say it one more time. It's dangerous when a child will trust a stranger quicker than they will a caregiver. But that just didn't happen overnight. That happened over time. Why? Because when that child needed that parent, that parent was emotionally unavailable. And this happens a lot of time when babies raising babies. Or when the father of somebody feels like he has to be the hard one or the strong one in the family and he can't show emotion and all those types of things. And we start to avoid and we leave these child. I used to always say it's dangerous to leave a child to their own devices. I think I wrote about it in my book. But one of my punishments when I was a child, my stepmother, she did the best she could raising me as a child. I love her to death. I saw her this weekend. But she did the best she could. But if I messed up on a grade, she knew that grade was going to be on my report card for 9 weeks. So she would punish me sometime by making me stay in my room for 9 weeks. No TV, no radio, just my books, bed, just to study. But it's dangerous. I think that's part of the reason sometimes I think like I think now. I'm not going to say I'm crazy, but I definitely think different. But you leave a child to his own devices, you don't know what they're going to think. One thing I encourage my children to do in our house, definitely in our house, is I wanted them to talk. And I would tell them, get it wrong at home. Because if you get it wrong at home, then I can correct you now. And at the same time, we were establishing thought patterns, right? We were establishing patterns, as we talked about earlier, about the attachment styles having certain patterns. We started developing patterns that would show up in the way they processed, even when they weren't at home, right? But someone who has developed an avoidant attachment, they might have been told to be quiet all the time. They might have been spoken for instead of someone letting them speak. Now, when my children were young, when they were a certain age, I didn't let you talk to them. You didn't have any business talking to my child. You talk to me. I'm the daddy. You don't talk to my child because I just didn't play. You can say hello. You can say hi, but beyond that. One time Trey, I paid $70 a week for Trey to go to hitting lessons. And Trey had I'm talking about baseball. He had a very technical way, pro style of hitting, the way the coach was teaching him. And so some people didn't understand what we were working on. And so they would see him maybe have a trouble in a game, but I wasn't worried about a game. I was worried about the long run. It got him through college and a master's degree. But they would see something, they would want to correct it. And I'd be like, no, we pay for that. I don't need you talking to him. And Trey would just look at me. Trey didn't say anything to them. And then as he got older, if they did it, he had filtered hearing. He'd be like, Dad, I don't need to pay that no attention. And so, but that was through me reassuring him and him understanding certain aspects, of our relationship. But those that operate with the avoidant, attachment issue, those individuals didn't have that person to go to. They had to figure it out on themselves. Probably started smoking cigarettes. I'm joking at this part, but probably started smoking cigarettes at 12. I started hanging out with the fellas on the corner or the crowd up the street because they were looking for love in all the. I'm singing Willie Nelson, but they were looking for love, and they were looking for the love that they couldn't find at home. And so over time, they develop the avoidant attachment syndrome or the avoidant attachment. And let's look at some of their characteristics. Those with the avoidant attachment, they might not be willing or able to share thoughts and feelings with others, and may even have problems with intimacy. Did y'all hear that? You don't know who you're dealing with. You're complaining about, and it's a legitimate complaint, because you're entitled to allow whomever it is you choose to be in your life. It's your life. You deserve that. You can let whoever, but you don't understand what baggage or skeletons a person brings with them, because all we see is their now, and we don't know anything about their history. Nothing whatsoever. So those that have the anxious attachment, they might not be willing or able to share thoughts and feelings with others, and may even have problems with intimacy. Secondly, they might suffer from commitment phobia. They don't know how to commit. And everything they committed to in the past might have broken them or disappointed them or let them down. Who knows? They might not have invest as much emotion in a relationship as others. And guess what the sad part about it is? They tend not to be as disappointed when the relationship ends. Guess what? Guess why? Because they expected the relationship to end. They were expecting at any moment that the floor was going to fall out, and I knew it was coming. I knew it was too good to be true. Has anybody ever been there? That's why they try to avoid certain things in the relationship. But this didn't start when they were 6. I mean, this didn't just start when they were 6. They felt it at 16. And because they didn't deal with it, they felt it at 26. And because they still didn't deal with it, they felt it at 36. And like Miss Milton said, it lingers for decades because of what Nicole and Miss Milton said earlier, because we're not aware of the way we attach to those. We just go in willy-nilly. We just go in, and that's shaping. So you, as parents, as grandparents, as caregivers, as we need to be conscious of how we deal with our children. My baby, man, please, that child there, I remember, man, every morning for school, she was late. I mean, late, trying to get stuff together. Late. Hurry up. Come on, we got to go. Hurry up. Get in the car. I'm going 65 and a 35 trying to get up the road to catch the bus, right? But then after a while, I'm seeing her coming downstairs because it's pressure, because I have a deep voice, and, it's kind of stentorious at times, right? And it can be intimidating, and at a certain point, it can become monotonous. And probably like Charlie Brown's teacher, like womp, 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 womp. And she's coming downstairs and she's got tears in her eyes because I'm rushing her and I'm putting pressure on her and all. And I expected her to go to school like that. I thank God that now, because she lives with me now, I thank God we have the relationship now where she'll come to me and we'll talk. And the other day, I'll share certain things with her because she's a little different. With that one, you got to almost make her believe certain things are her idea. Because if you make a suggestion, y'all have any children like that? You got to almost make them think it's their idea, and that's But unless you don't want to change your parenting style, now if you want to keep your parenting style how you did it because you like my way or the highway, or you tough like that, however you do it. I mean, if that's how you did it, that's fine. I'm a little more creative than that. Because I'm not spanking you because I ain't gonna hit nobody I love. I'm just not doing it. I didn't really do much spanking growing up, them growing up, but I was creative. So I realized that she would rebel when you tried to make suggestions. Hell, she got it from her daddy. I don't like people telling me what to do. So she got it honest. It ain't like she just picked that up off the blue. So I'm a little smarter than she is, right? You know, I've been around a little bit longer. So what I figured out to do was I figured out how to make her think what I wanted done or what I felt like she needed to do. I would make her think it was her idea. I would sell her the scenario, over and over again, or paint a picture of with words, what I thought the outcome should look like. And I would do that. And when I did that with her, there would be times, where then she might not catch it right then, but an hour later, 2 hours later, a week later, she'll come back again. And I'm sitting in the house here, and she's steady looking at these boxes come in the house, and boxes, Amazon. She got a little job. She can buy what she want to buy. I'm not going to charge her any bills. But she's like, Dad, I'm buying some shelves to do this. And I'm doing this because I want to get organized. I want to do this because you told me that if I want to go to the next level, then I'm going to have to step up. And I say, and I'm just sitting there, I couldn't show it on the outside. I'm Dad, I got to be a little tough. But on the inside, I'm smiling, man. I'm like, yeah, she gets it. She's starting to get it. She's starting to get it. She's starting to get it. But I had to create that atmosphere. I could have lost her if I would have kept yelling. I could have lost her if I didn't change my parenting style, because I need the relationship. And I don't even only need the relationship with me, but because she's a physical representation of me in the world, because she has my last name. She's my child. As she goes out and becomes a wife one day, or whatever she decides to do, a cheerleading coach, whatever she does, she still represents me because she carries my last name. And I love it whenever something's wrong, I'm her first phone call. Do your children, and a child with an avoidant attachment, their parent might not be their first phone call. They've been told all their lives how to figure it out. And I get it. I'm with you. I feel you. I want my children to figure it out too. But here it is. If I'm going to tell my children to figure it out, I'm going to at least give them a formula. That's pretty good, Jay. Yeah. Hold on. Let me get one of them. Hold on real quick. If I'm going to tell my children to figure it out, then the least I can do for my children is provide a formula.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
All right, that's good. I hadn't done that all night, so I wanted to get one of those in. Yeah. If I'm going to tell my children to figure it out, and the sad reality is the reason why we can't tell our children to figure it out, because we can't figure it out, because we're too creative. We're not very creative ourselves. If you do all your fishing in Walmart, then that means someone has not taught you how to fish. That's a metaphor for those that might not understand that. So that means someone has given you a fish all your life. So that's what you're dependent on, somebody giving you something. But if you've been taught how to fish because you've been given a formula to figure things out. Trey was, I got to think now, hold 2001. Yeah, 2001. No, 2004. 2004. Trey was 6. And I was talking to a guy named Sydney at a dealership I was working at. And Sydney cool cat from New Orleans. But I told him I was teaching Trey how to think. Teaching him how to think. How can you teach him how to think? I was like, that's a dumb question. But anyway, I said I put him in scenarios where he has to think. And then I ask a simple question. I say, what were you thinking? That's simple. Yeah. Well, now that's one way. Now that's one way. Emmanuel, I like that. I will give you a chance. I'm not going to give you a chance to create your own formula. I'm going to give you a foundational formula. Now you can add some different seasonings as you get older, right? Grandmama might teach somebody how to make a pound cake. And you might use pure cane sugar now, but as you get older, you might want to try a different kind of sugar. Okay, that's fine. But we're going to start with this foundation. So I'm going to give them a chance after they've learned something to start. Think about it. If you want to get the measurement of a circle, you can't change the formula. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's what is it? A equals, I mean, what pi equals whatever, pi squared, whatever. I forget, what is it? Pi equals, y'all know what it is, but you got to start in the circle. I mean, start in the center of the circle. That's the only formula that's going to give you the proper measurement. Now, I agree with you, Emmanuel, in principle, but it has to start with a foundation. That's where I'm at. Now, as they get older, they can change the formula. I remember, I remember one time my parents had came to Atlanta for Trey's birthday. I'll be telling on myself, and I had to tell them at one point, well, this is my house. No disrespect. No disrespect. Now, what we did in your house, something, and like for instance, when growing up, my mother made scrambled eggs with onions in those. I hated onion in my eggs. And I just didn't understand why she kept putting onions in the freaking eggs. I hated onions in my eggs. But when I got older and I started making eggs for my family, guess what I didn't do? Didn't put onions in them. And it was okay. You know, so my mom gave me her formula and that was fine. But I never, certain things I just won't eat because I didn't like it when I was a child. I can't eat shrimp because I'm allergic to it. And we didn't know that at first, but my people were one that believed you eat all the food on your plate. So I would eat all my food, but I'd throw up every time. Turned out I was allergic to shrimp. I don't like green bean casserole. Had to eat it when I was little. Hate it. Onions in my eggs. Hated it. So with all that being said, in my house, I didn't do those things, right? But they were part of my foundation nonetheless. They were still a part of my foundation. All right, so one more attachment style. We've already talked about 3. We've talked about the secure attachment style. We've talked about the anxious and ambivalent attachment style. We've also talked about the avoidant attachment style. But then there is another one, and I forgot to make a overlay, but that's fine. There's the disorganized attachment style. There's the disorganized attachment style. Now, with the disorganized attachment style, hold on a minute, I don't want that yet. The caregiver typically on this person, and we're talking about how we attach in relationships as adults, how we were affected as children. All right. And if you want to go back and get the notes on this, go back and watch the show again. But those with disorganized attachment styles, their caregiver was probably abusive. Whether it was verbal abuse, whether it was physical abuse, the caregiver usually showed atypical behavior. A child with a disorganized attachment style might feel both fear and comfort towards a caregiver. And that can be confusing for a child because this child doesn't know what to expect from day to day. They don't know if they're going to feel love right now or if they're going to loathe being in this person's presence because that person might have been drinking, might have had a bad day, and that child is the outlet for that caregiver. A caregiver can't stand the crying, so shut up, hush, all that kind of stuff. All that yelling and all that kind of stuff. But then the next minute, oh, this is my baby. Oh, come on, baby. Da da da. Because you're in a good mood now, and that caregiver's in a good mood now. So, but how is this for the child? It's confusing for the child because the child doesn't know how to respond to their parent. And so, what this is called is a disorganized attachment. Disorganized attachments can lead to difficulties in mental health and behavior. If you look at the prison population, most or a lot of people in the prison population suffer they're either dealt with drugs or they suffer from some type of mental illness. There's something mental going on in that with that individual. And so a lot of them had disorganized attachment. A disorganized attachment style is a mixture of behaviors. It's a mixture of behaviors. They don't know what to feel. They feel confused. They feel loved. They feel comforted. They feel fear. And they can feel all of that from the same person. And I'm not talking about the type of fear. There's a fear in the Greek that means the terminology in the Greek that means respect. That's not the fear I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fear that brings about a phobia. The fear that makes me not want to be in your presence. The fear like of watching. Some of y'all are weird because y'all like to watch scary movies. I can't watch them because I'm too clairvoyant and I might go to bed dreaming about that kind of stuff. So I got to be careful with that. I'm almost finished. Let me finish up these last little points, then I'm done. But a person with a disorganized attachment style, that person is a person with the attachment, with this attachment style might be clingy at one time and emotionally distant at another time. This is how it shows up in adulthood. Sometimes they feel like a nut, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they feel like being bothered. Sometimes they don't feel like being bothered. That's someone with a disorganized attachment style. It's typically a response to parents or caregivers who may have been, I said this earlier, may have been abusive or neglectful. When a person has a disorganized attachment syndrome or a disorganized attachment style, that person's brain can't figure out a good strategy. With secure attachment, their brain is comfortable. They know that's who I'm going to. That's my go-to. That person loves me. That person's concerned about me. That person is going to be there when I need them when the going gets rough. I've developed a relationship with that individual. That's someone who has a secure attachment. But someone with a disorganized attachment, nope. And when it shows up in adulthood, you got someone that sometimes they just want to always be in your presence, all under you, but the next minute they don't want to. That's because that person was neglected as a child. And the way they act out is by hey, before you get me, let me get you. Before you hurt me, let me hurt you. Hurt people. Yeah. These are all different types of attachment styles. All of these are different types of attachment styles. And as I said earlier, attachment styles are, number one, they're patterns. Number two, they can be based on nonverbal communication. Number two, they vary in security, which I showed you the 4 different attachment styles: the secure attachment style, the anxious or ambivalent attachment, the avoidant attachment, and then I showed you the disorganized attachment. But the final thing about attachment styles, and here it is, and I need you all to hear me on this one, and this is where I want to really pitch a tent for our conversation, especially if you all want to call in or share something in the chat. Attachment styles, they're not concrete. They can change. A person can be avoidant now, but get in a good enough relationship and become so secure and begin to trust this individual, and then they can start to feel secure. So don't get so caught up into believing that a person is so concretized that they can't change, because they can. Attachment styles are largely shaped by the infant caregiver connection, but they can change in response to how close friends and partners, romantic partners, treat a person in adulthood. Remember, it's called attachment theory. All right? A theory for a reason. How we act under certain circumstances does not define the rest of our lives and all future relationships. Thank you. If a person does the work, but that requires that you be aware, that you see the deficiencies. And once you recognize the deficiencies, you do the work. Hear me. Old behaviors can be unlearned and replaced with new ones. And even a string of unsuccessful relationships doesn't mean you have to have an insecure. It doesn't mean you have an insecure attachment style. All it may take, here it is the right person and the right relationship to overturn everything you think you knew about your connection and attachment to others. One person can come in and change everything. One person. One person. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I'll be honest, I struggled in how I related in relationships. And now in therapy, I'm seeing why. Because there were some things that I might have been deficient when I was growing up. And because of that, it shows up in my adult relationships. And you meet the right person. And I ain't gonna lie, I met somebody that opened it up, made me see it. I mean, reflection. I was like, oh, wow, was I that bad? Oh, my God. And it caused me to want to change. But it took somebody coming into my life to unlock that was there to get, because I took the test. And those that have not taken the quiz, go take it. But I took the quiz, and the mind said I was secure. It said I was secure. It did. But it required, like I said, but there were some things that were showing up in my adult relationships. I had somebody tell me my love hurts one time. And when they told me that, it was like, ugh, am I that bad? Am I that bad? So, but I looked in the mirror, and looking in the mirror, I saw what I needed to do. So if you are seeking to have substantive relationships, even if you have been divorced, have never been married, been in failed relationships, before you make an attempt to get into a fruitful relationship, I think it's a good idea to really spend time in that mirror and not only look at what people did to you, but look at what you might have done and what you could have possibly done differently. And if you had done things differently, would it have produced a different outcome? That's part of maturity. I mean, real talk, that's just part of growing up. When we get to a certain point where we're able to really, really, really look at the man or the woman in the mirror, the person in the mirror, and say, you know what? I did have some things I needed to work on. And then you take the time to really work on those things. Then now you're a better version of yourself, and you're prepared to go into the next relationship. And you won't be somebody hurting the next person. So learn your attachment style. Are you secure? Are you anxious or ambivalent? Are you practicing avoidance? Do you have the avoidant attachment syndrome? Or was it disorganized? It's good to know. It's good to know. It's good to know. And if you learn that, all it can do is make you more aware, more conscious, and it will help you as you seek to relate. I know one thing: I don't want to hurt anybody else. I got to get this right. I'm 50. I'll be 52 in July, so I don't have much more time left. So I gotta. It was a time I was saying I was ready for a relationship, but I wasn't really ready. And then when I meet somebody and finally ready, then I messed it up. But y'all pray for me. I'm gonna try to fix it. Yeah. Oh Lord. But yeah. So 3 things that you're looking for in relationships, and these three things will make you feel secure. 3 questions. Number 1, you need to make sure you're secure within yourself. Make sure you are secure within yourself. Ask yourself a question. Do you deserve love? And once you ask yourself that question, do you deserve love? Once that you determine that answer to that question is yes, then you're in the process or on the path to feeling secure within a relationship. Second thing you need to determine if you're going to feel secure with a relationship Or are the people that are around you, can they be trusted? Can they be trusted with your needs? Can you trust them with your heart? Will they consistently show up? And if you find people like that, then you can say you're secure within your relationship. Third thing is how you view your attachment or your connection to others. In other words, the wire, Miss Milton, that connects you with your partner or whoever it is in any type of relationship, is that wire stable? Is there any lacks in the cord? Is there a rip in, like it could potentially break? If the person that you're connected to, that attachment or that connection, are they necessary? And if they are necessary, if they're not necessary, are they a threat to your sense of self? Do they make you feel valued? And if they don't make you feel valued, then you probably don't have a very secure relationship. But if they do make you feel valued, and here it is, if you've expressed to them that you need to feel valued, and they make attempts to try to make you feel valued, or they ask questions or whatever, you have to determine whether or not you're secure within that relationship, right? So that's what we got to figure out, man. And that's what I'm learning. I'm learning that if I want to be a better version of myself, before I can go forward, you know what the reality is? I'm going to have to go backwards. Sometimes it requires that we go back. Because to understand where you are, you have to understand where you came from. And so many of us have become so detached, disassociated from where we came from, that we have just kind of created an alter ego where we are. And anybody can be who they need to be in the moment. But if you're alone by yourself, alone with you and your thoughts, that alter ego that you created, it's got to be the real you has to show up, not the representative. I'm trying to be healthy. I'm trying to be a better version of myself. Listen, Student Nation, I appreciate you all for jumping on with me tonight. Wanted to, like I said, discuss this whole subject of attachment styles. And what we did, for those that missed it, was we went back and looked in our childhood, our infancy, to see how we related with our caregivers and see how that might be affecting us even in our adulthood. Are we secure? Are we anxious or ambivalent? Are we avoidant? Or are we disorganized? Think about it. Go take that attachment style quiz on my page and let me know what your outcome was. Right? All right, so it's been fun. I've been on for almost an hour and a half. Been fun. Thank you, Viola. You always encourage me. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for all you contributed tonight. Emmanuel, Charlotte, all of you all. I really do. And if you all want to support the platform, let me put the cash out up. I got you. Or never know, somebody might want to be a blessing tonight. Let's put the cash app up before I say what I'm about to say. Where is it? Oh, there it is. All right. Cash app right there. All right. So as I say in closing, the world is changing. My question to you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all do me a favor. Have a good night. Y'all got to come in with yourself. I get tired of talking to y'all. I'll talk to y'all right back. All right. Intellectual Stew, we out. Catch y'all next week.
intellectuals to